Howdy, welcome to Gamers Paradise. I am Anthony, this is Pete. We are doing a re-record of one of our previous programs. If Pete
There
was
goes my
silent,
time.
Man, this is like sitting in a sermon where
Didn't we
somebody's
just
phone is
have
going
this?
off. This is like what, like
There we
sitting
go. It shall never bother
this-
us again.
This is like sitting in church when during the sermon when somebody's phone keeps going off.
Yeah, it happens. At least it's not like the kid with the communion glasses. You know?
Okay.
Hey, look, it's that kid with the special glasses. The mother's mocked the kid in the back of the head and the communion glasses. Flying W's.
Okay, so our first segment is the handheld segment. We get to do one of Pete's favorites on this one. We get to do the Nintendo Switch.
Yes.
This is a handheld console that can also go full console on your TV with two controllers.
Mhm.
It's actually a pretty fun console. There's actually one problem that I see with it. There's no games installed.
Yes, Mr. At Games Atari 75 whatever games. But at least you got some good ones, and there is a package where you can get two. It's a start, right?
Mine had games installed, that's all I'm saying.
Well, so does the 5P5
Hey, do me a favor.
thing.
Do me a favor, don't mention that. That's our next show. Right?
Oh. Spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, no.
Okay, so you can get an SD card.
Yes, you can.
And it acts as a...
It stores enough memory on the SD card for your saves and everything. Nintendo, when they're... Well, to their credit, they're trying to make a hybrid console, which doesn't have a lot of space for memory and stuff, so they need to find a short, portable means to get fast memory, which is SD cards. And you can get, I have a 200 gig one in my Switch right now. You can buy 500 gig ones.
Yeah, we actually saw some of these at Walmart tonight, and you were sitting there going, really?
Yes, the Nintendo brand sponsored Link one with Breath of the Wild is $70, which is ironically 64 gigabytes. But if you're smart, just look for a SanDisk one, and you can find a 128 or 200 gig for about the same price. So that's about more on that customer vigilance that we talked about earlier.
Yes.
And it's not that you're stupid for buying it, but you can always look around for a better bargain. Mom taught me that very well with her coupons.
My mom taught me that as well. And it wasn't just with coupons. She would take me down the aisle and go, okay, this is a better one, this is a better one, this is a better one. So I can kind of see where you're going with this.
And most consumers, if you go grocery shopping or whatever, the cheaper product, maybe probably better quality because you're not paying for the brand, is on the bottom shelf. Often cheaper.
I mean, it's like I taught you with guitars tonight when we were at Guitar Center. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, we're shopping around just looking.
And I was just looking at Gibsons, and I was kind of astonished at some of the pricing on them.
Yeah.
But you have to remember something. In music shopping, as in anything else, when you're paying for something like a Gibson guitar, you're not paying for the guitar, you're paying for the name. So it's just the same way with the Switch, too. You're not paying for the gaming system itself. You're paying for the name that's on it.
Yeah, pretty much. But basically, one of the reasons what drew me to the Switch in the first place, back when I was a kid, I started with a Super Nintendo right when my friends of our family. There you go. That's right. They got a Nintendo 64, so we sort of got their Super Nintendo hand-me-downs, and we got all these old games. And as a kid, I had family members that lived in California, and I wanted to take my Super Nintendo games in the car with me in a handheld device to play them, and I couldn't do it. I knew the technology was there, but nobody wanted to do anything about it. So basically, I'm reliving my childhood dream by playing with the Switch, by having all these games with me. Even when I was going to Oklahoma City Community College, I would bring it with me.
I went through the same thing because I wanted the same thing with my Nintendo games.
Yeah.
And they had the Game Boy out, and my parents wouldn't buy me one. So it was like...
That's the first thing my mom and dad bought for us. Cause
I was like, come on! I'll
they were
buy the
tired of
games!
hearing
Buy me the...
he's touching me! So to keep us at bay, we were having our hands in our Game Boys, and my dad would hear, ooh, ah! And dad was like, what's going on? Oh, we just died. And mom would have to explain that he's playing Mario or whatever.
Okay. Next one, we have the spiritual topic of the day, which is enemy is often in plain view.
Yes.
Runs to vigilance.
It's right under your nose, often when you least expect it. In fact, the game I chose to review for this episode was a Switch game I picked up. I thought it was a good deal. I didn't really have too much nostalgia for the Goosebumps. I liked the theme song, and then I turned it off because most of the shows were crap or stupid. Sorry, I'll be professional in the future, but it was garbage. It
Not much professional. Kind of a bad play there.
It's an insult to garbage. Anyways, excuse me. My favorite episodes were the Earthworms episode or the Lawn Gnomes episode. I thought they were kind of funny. I honestly didn't know whether I should scream or laugh. But anyways, most of the time I'd hear the theme song, watch the intro, and turn it off because that's the best part of Goosebumps.
Okay, so I'm gonna go for the scripture on this one. It's Ephesians 6 verses 10 through 12. Basically talks about the armor of God. I ran through this. I think I ran through this on the last one.
You did touch on it. I don't know if you brought all of them in.
Well,
we apologize, guys. We had to reshoot this episode.
Yeah,
the last episode was bad.
And quite honestly, we've slept since we last shot, so bear with us. Next one we have is the topical approach, vigilance, visual aid. Oh, we did that.
Vigilance versus vigilante.
Yeah, there we go.
With the movie we saw, which was The Wager.
The Wager, yes.
And honestly,
quite
I
honestly,
wasn't impressed.
Quite honestly, I thought this was a good movie. I would not suggest it for anybody out there who has epilepsy because of the way they do the flashbacks.
It almost gave me some just like, wow, there's a lot of bright lights and it's flashing.
Yeah, it was just like, I hate to compare a Randy Travis movie to this, but it was just like watching The Matrix when they had the club scenes.
Yeah, it really was. I remember exactly that scene since you brought it up.
There was another thing that I did not like about this, and that was they went into the whole paparazzi not helping thing. I mean, the guy was going through a lot in his life, and the paparazzi was constantly following him around. And I'm going to use a "oh brother, where art thou" phrase here, but it was cronyism. I mean, they were all...
I'm surprised it's a real word.
They were all copying each other.
And one of the other things I had an issue with that movie was, I'm starting to see this a lot with the Christian department of Hollywood. I'm sure there's such a thing. It's artificial persecution. As Christians, yes, we get it. It's a real thing. It's there. But to create and over-dramatize it to that point, I don't think it's that bad anywhere. I'm sure in the future it will be worse. But, I mean, for example, I know God's not dead. To me, I've experienced similar things like this in my schooling. And I've had other friends that experience this, and I've seen other stories sharing on that similar instance. The sequels, I'm not convinced that it's as bad as they're saying it is. Anthony mentioned that the second one was actually based on a true story.
Yes, it was.
I'm not so sure about the third one.
The third one was just kind of building off of where the second one ended, the pastor being arrested and...
Yeah, and it's just... we would appreciate it if Hollywood actually would make an original idea that actually looks unique and not an overdone cliche.
Let me just put it to you this way. You guys are taking scripture out of context. When Jesus said, "As they hate me, so shall you be," or whatever that phrase was. 3 years of seminary, and I still can't get biblical right.
Look, just mention the scripture real quick.
The scripture basically just said, "As I was hated, so will you be."
Yes, it's in
And
the
we're
Gospels.
paraphrasing.
Yes, we want to make that clear. We are not trying to take it out of context. Everybody reads and interprets scripture differently. There's also a fine line between actually saying the right thing versus paraphrasing. We are paraphrasing. We're not trying to mislead anyone.
And please, don't get me wrong. It does say that.
It's Matthew's. I know Jesus mentions it.
It's out of context.
It really is.
And seriously, guys, if you're going to take something out of context, make sure it's something that can be salvaged later.
Yeah, really.
This can't be salvaged later.
And a lot of people, this is one of the reasons that a lot of non-Christians out there have with Christians is they see movies like this and they get the wrong idea, and that's pushing. It's actually doing the opposite of what the Christian department of Hollywood intends. It's bringing them away instead of bringing them towards Christianity. And
there was something that one of the people up at UCO told me, and I got this a lot up there. And I hate to beat off the path with this, but they when I would invite them to church, they go, "Well, I don't believe in organized religion."
I had a guy that told me that once.
So let me just verify one thing. I don't believe in organized religion. You know why? Let me just tell you why. There is no such thing.
When it gets to that kind of an organization, it's not a religion, it's a cult at that point. And most Christians out there have always told me this. I can't speak for everyone else in the room or anyone else. It's not a religion, it's a personal relationship with your Savior, the one who chose to die on a cross.
Right.
Which was actually practiced in that time.
And ironically,
they had the worst of the criminals crucified on crosses.
Ironically enough, you know who the crucifixion thing started with? It was not the Romans.
No, they took that on, I want to say probably Greeks.
It was the Persians.
Yeah, they did that too. Greeks, Persians.
The Persians started it, and then the Greeks took it, and then the Romans took it.
Yeah, so, I mean, you can see that in history.
It's a vicious circle, people.
And basically what we meant was they only did that to what they deemed the worst of the worst, the most offensive of criminals. And even more ironically, Jesus died next to a thief on his right and left.
I will say this. Barabbas was going to get it sooner or later anyway. So, just saying.
Yeah, we saw a movie entitled Barabbas at Marnell, which was kind of weird to me.
And I actually do want to review this in a later episode because it was really good.
I'm not so sure I'd want to.
It was actually really good.
I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, I guess.
Okay, next segment, we're going to do an app. And before we start, people who try and get us and say, games aren't apps, if you can win at it.
Or you can lose, or you
can die, or you can live.
And
it's a game.
And not only that, you will be playing it probably within the next 5 minutes, or like I do with most of my YouTube videos I watch, I play an app watching the YouTube video.
Amen.
So yes, they're games.
Okay, so we're going with the Halloween theme here. We're gonna go Plants vs. Zombies. I just installed this a few weeks ago.
Excuse me.
And it was strictly because I had played it on one of your systems.
Yeah.
I really liked it. And so I was like, and at first I didn't, because I didn't like the whole zombie thing. I thought it was kind of overplayed. But
the way they do it in that game, it's really a lot of fun. It's basically, if you really want to put a comparison to it, it's basically a modernized, cartoonized version of tower defense. Mm-hmm. It's really all it is. And you have to use a lot of strategy, or as I like to call it, strategery.
No, that was George W. Bush. But anyway,
he was a wise man.
But
right?
You know what? I found something that's really kind of cool with this. He's gonna laugh. I can see it coming. You can use the Marine Guidebook with this.
You have to use a lot of military tactics in that game. I did a lot of military tactics in that game.
I
myself.
actually reached back to reading my dad's copy of the Marine Guidebook, and I read it like ad nauseum.
Hey, if you're bored, what can you do?
No, I wasn't bored. It turned out to be one of my favorite books. It's a good read if you want to know military strategy from Vietnam. It's a great read.
Just like Hammer, the Deer Hunter was his good read.
Was his favorite comedy, yes. Now we go to the point and click games. We kind of touched on this just a minute ago with Goosebumps. And also I'm also going to throw the whole buyer beware on this one.
Yeah, it
goes to buyer vigilance.
It really does.
Anymore it does.
Most people see that and there's this nostalgia hook. They get those who liked the show back in the 90s or the movies. Has nothing to do with the movies now. But and it was catchy at first. It was your run of the mill point and click game, and I started with Myst. And it's
talk about Myst for a minute because I never played that.
Oh, it's my brother and sister.
Was it like The Hobbit?
I've never played a point and
where
click
you're
Hobbit,
where you're like an orc or you're a elf.
Basically, no.
Okay.
You ironically play as yourself. You are
I have a tail on the side of my head.
You have in their universe they created books to where you can go into the universe that they created. And the race was called the Dunny. There's a book about it.
Are they done?
Well, yes and no.
When you played them, were they done yet?
They were done. They were extinct, and you were trying to figure out what happened.
Okay.
But you get sucked into one of the books.
Right.
And you go and explore the environment. There's atmosphere puzzles. There's steam puzzles. There's waterworks puzzles. Everything and anything.
Now,
electricity. And you have to solve how to save the father and basically punish the two sons. Because the two sons took a page from the grandfather. This reminds me of something
that they were going to try and make a game out of, but they never did it. Who remembers the Choose Your Own Adventure books?
That's exactly what this kind of was.
They wanted to do one Choose Your Own Adventure game for Atari. But, as it turns out, they could not get the licensing right. And it flopped. So...
yeah,
it happens.
It's really hard to make a point-and-click game well. And you would think that with the pedigree that Goosebumps has, what little it has, it's a debatable topic.
It has a pedigree,
right? But most people, if I would have been hooked if they at least had the catchy theme song, and all would have been forgiven with me. It was a point and click, and I would have muscled through it and figured it out. But after 15 minutes, I guess, I got to like the third or fourth area. There wasn't really much to explore, and there's one thing I could have explored way back in the first area, which is a whole 15 minutes to go back to the beginning to figure it out. I was like, I really don't feel like it.
There was one point-and-click game where I felt like they got everything right, but where you were supposed to go.
Yeah.
And that was Wolfenstein 3D. I'm sorry, but when it started out as a computer game, it was all point-and-click.
I must have forgotten that part. I know Wolfenstein.
You're going through
Doom used its engine.
You're going through this castle, and you have all these orc things coming at you the whole time.
Yeah,
and every time they get killed, time they get killed, it's kind of funny because they go.
Yeah, I remember that. I played that at my next door neighbor's house when I was a kid.
Going through the castle at one point, and I got to nearly I think it was like the third tier of the castle.
I wouldn't know, man.
And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the whole screen just went blank. And
I like Doom.
One of my friends, the friend that introduced this game to me, he sat there and goes, you hit the wall. he
Well,
actually
you must
called
have known.
he called this the wall because he got there, and when he got there, it did the same thing to him. Basically, what happened was they ran out of game footage, so they had to put a dark screen right at the third tier of the castle, and you're like, ah!
Man.
Don't play the computer version for that, and the PS2 version equally stinks.
Well, apparently there's a Switch version called Castlevania 2. Not Castlevania, Wolfenstein 2.
All right, I want to play it.
And
You got it?
no,
Oh.
I might pick it up later.
Woohoo!
I'm not. I don't know, man. I'm a Doom guy through and through. I also play Doom at my same friend's house next door.
So I guess he could say he's doomed.
Aha. And they're trying to make the sequel to Doom on the Switch, which is awesome. And eventually, I might review the Doom. In general, I try to steer clear from mature-rated games. And my exception with that is the war ones. That's if it can work with the topic we're using.
Right.
That's the only exception. Otherwise, no. And that's just because, for the most part, M-rated games generally means potential scantily clad or partial nudity or something of that nature.
And you have kids. And
I have kids, and I don't play those games in front of them anyways. But I'm more willing for games like Doom, which is you are literally... The whole premise and storyline of that game is you are on Mars, and they found a portal to hell, and you are killing demons. So, yes, that will definitely work with our topic. You're going and killing demons with righteous military marine weaponry.
Okay, so we got through our whole list with time to kill.
Yes.
So, let's go through things you will not see on this channel. First of all, you will not see us get distasteful with anything.
We believe in being respectful all around.
Now, I will say this, and I think these are kind of cute myself, these little arcade systems that are coming out. But guys, let me
only got 4 games on them.
Hold on, let me just go ahead and review this. You have a mini arcade system where you can sit on your knees and play it in arcade. Yes, it's like the 80s entirely, except you're not spending any quarters.
You can do... There are actual...
Yes,
sorry to cut you off.
There are.
For the Switch, there's actual apparatuses and platforms you can construct out of either balsa wood or cardboard that has a little, looks like an arcade, but it's a Switch, and there's some Switch games. There's a pinball thing that's for free that you can download. There's old Neo Geo games at less than $10 that you can buy digitally, and there are little fittings you can do on the little analog stick to make it feel like a joystick. And there's also ones you can buy online that have the actual arcade pad thing that are compatible with the Switch, and you can play it that way. And guess what?
It's not over $100.
Yeah, it's a lot cheaper. I mean, the Switch, but the things to get with the Switch, you can do that for your Switch and have that feeling.
So
there's also a Chinese knockoff one that's like $60 that has like 80 games.
On my review for this, I'm going to just say, oh, really, on this, because it just, to me, I would love to play in an arcade, but again, I'm an adult.
And for me, we're filming in my apartment, and those who have been in my apartment know it's pretty darn small. And I'm not going to have the space to put a deadgum miniaturized arcade anywhere in my apartment for the first place. So my best bet is to try to get a cardboard apparatus.
I'm not going to have the space either. So.
Yeah, that's why most of the time on my Switch, I've bought a lot of digital games because, you know what? I might not have physical space, but I have digital space. So I'm going to play as many games as I can. And preferably licensed and preferably ones without a paywall, preferably. And we've done the paywall topic to the moon and back. We will definitely talk more on this.
We will do more about this, but
there's already a few channels that are literally on their own crusades against paywalls.
and we might actually hop and join that crusade. So
Yeah, because it's turning in. It will eventually be another topic. It's vigilance against greed, corporate greed.
We saw that in another one we watched. It was a documentary on mining.
Mm-hmm.
So, but let me just. I'm gonna touch on something here, and you can stop me if I'm wrong. The Bible preaches about greed
That it does.
almost ad nauseum, actually.
That it does. And there's at least quite a few places in the New Testament
There
where
are.
Jesus goes in the temple, makes a whip out of a horse's tail, and drives them out. He said, "You've turned my house of prayer into a den of thieves."
And see,
And then he also calls them a pit of vipers in a few other places, I think, around the same time.
he actually calls the Pharisees a brood of vipers.
That he does.
Several different times.
But that's a righteous anger, and he has every right to be angry because, and that's what with Christianity and, for example, being a pastor, you have to spend money to go to school to get a license.
And
Come on, church.
Seriously?
Come on. That is against Christianity.
Okay, not only that, but if I have to go to school for this, for something that should be naturally ingrained into me,
It should be free because the primary curriculum for that should be a Bible. I mean, come on.
Okay,
Or any other religious book of choice. There shouldn't be a paid school for a licensing of that magnitude.
I've had a few pastors tell me that one of the classes that I took, the very first one that I took actually, interpreting and teaching theology was the hardest one they took. They were making like C's and D's.
Yeah,
I made an A.
I barely scraped by my religions class with a B, and that's just because.
Here's the funny part: I had to fight for that grade because the teacher didn't understand how my brain worked. Hardly anybody does. I don't.
And that's a really hard topic for anyone to understand. For anyone, honestly, you can't just go to someone off the street and automatically assume you know how they think. You know?
Yeah, and so when I called him up and I explained to him how my brain worked, he was like, "Oh, okay, I've had a few other people that are like you, so I can kind of get in the groove of where you're going with this." So he gave me an A. Okay, so let's go through some of the special guests we're going to have in future programs. First of all, a good friend of ours, Chris Lorenz, is going to be here.
Yeah, and he's an assistant pastor at a local small church where we live, and I've been to his church a couple of times. It's a good place to go.
Also, just so you know, like he said, we're filming in Norman at his place. I'm from Edmond. And the pastor from one... I'm going to try and get both of the pastors of the churches where I go. But
yeah,
as far as we know, we have one guest booked.
Then we have to work around. Oh, your pastor?
The pastor from Highland Park Baptist Church has agreed to come in on a future show. He wants to be interviewed.
And I've never done an interview, so that'll probably be up to Anthony.
This will be fun. Because we can interview Chris and give you some practice.
If Chris wants to, we know Chris is a busy guy, so he also is a manager at Mardell, so it's gonna be in God's hands for that.
I'm gonna try and get this guy. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to. I've mentioned him before, Paul Blair. I'm gonna see if we can get one with him. Little history on Paul Blair: he played professional football.
Cool.
And he felt
you and him share something in common.
I was not a professional.
It was church league. It might as well be professional.
No.
Aw. Come on, church league.
Anyways, he felt the call into ministry at 37. And so he's been preaching ever since. He's actually one of the better pastors I've run into. For someone who's never been to seminary?
That's interesting. Needless to say, guys...
And he also told me one thing. He said that one of the best pastors and one of his best friends played professional baseball. He's a pastor at a church in, I think he said, Oregon? And he's never been to seminary.
See? Some churches have
Ha!
it right.
Ha!
Just saying.
Ha!
Oklahoma, need to get your priorities straight here. That's kind of ludicrous to me.
But
as we're saying this, we're trying to make this channel a ministry.
yes.
I believe my ministry will incorporate my family.
Not only that, but it's like Rich Mullins said in one of his songs, I believe what I believe. It's what makes me what I am.
Pretty much.
People, if you are believers in God, let me just put it to you this way. It's what makes you who you are. Don't be afraid to show it.
Yeah.
We just watched a movie called I'm Not Ashamed.
And we will do a review on that.
Yes, we will.
It'll probably be the next episode because it ties into
one
family.
of the next episodes.
The next episode that we have lined up is going to deal with Christian family and adopted family because Christ adopted us into his family. He used grafting of olive branches, I believe. I'm paraphrasing once again because I don't want to lead anyone astray. But the vine and the branches.
Okay, I'm going to quote Paul Blair here. If you want to look anything up that we say, go ahead.
Please do.
Yes.
Just be respectful in the comments, like we said.
If you want to compare what we're saying to the scriptures, do it.
And any others who are just stumbling upon this channel, I watch RGT85 and I watch everyone else.
And Paul Blair's probably going to be watching this. Hello.
We don't judge. Please don't judge us. We're looking at things differently. And, you're welcome to view our channel. You're welcome to subscribe. We will have more content readily available in the future. We're just starting, so naturally we're kind of small.
Okay, so guests in future shows, we have Chris Lorenz from New Generations Baptist Church. We have Joe Rhodes from Highland Park Baptist Church. He's going to be on the episode where we interview the movie, where we review the movie. I Can Only Imagine. I'm trying to get him to get out of his nervous little shell and help us with the review. Because he's actually taught a Bible study on it, so I think a guy that's taught a study on it might be able to help us a little bit.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
So, Joe, don't be nervous when we come at you with a camera. We get nervous in the camera all the time. We laugh at the camera all the time.
Yes, you should see, and we're going to have to set something up. But
we're going to have to do some of the bloopers. We're going to have to do a gag reel, which is something that a lot of our channels don't do, which they should, because I think it would be absolutely hilarious. But
there's one channel I watch that does that regularly.
One of these shows, we should do a gag reel.
Maybe we will.
Just so you can see what we're like off camera. Because some of the stuff we do off camera that's unscripted is hilarious.
It's going to be parodied because you got a camera on us, so it's not going to be entirely real, but relatively close.
Alright, guys, so stay classy with your comments. Be respectful. And be vigilant as buyers. If you see something that doesn't look right and you want to report it to someone, we'll gladly take it in the comments.
Yeah.
Unless it's with us.
And also, if you see something at a store that's absolutely illegal,
please,
you might want to call the cops first. We're not cops.
Yes, we are not cops.
Clear that up.
We don't profess to be in any way, shape, or form. We are just game reviewers, and that's all we are.
Well, game reviewers tying this to Christianity.
Yes. And quite honestly, Paul Blair, I told him what we're doing, and he thought it was a neat idea.
Cool.
He's like, he said this from the public. He said, I've never heard of somebody doing this before. So.
And my dad, if you're going to be watching this, my invitation still goes out to you. We can find out something you want to talk about.
My invitation goes out to anyone in my family, including my brother. If he wants to bring his guitar in, hey.
That'll be fun. I'm honestly looking into picking up a ukulele next week.
You the man with the guitar. Bring it in.
All right, guys.
God bless.